What do you do when your faith system no longer fits? Because sometimes you outgrow it. Sometimes you graduate, you ascend, you leave the old, itchy, worn-out way, and you begin to walk in the new. Sometimes you grow. Join the conversation with me, Tony Werfel, author, speaker, teaching pastor, as we help unwrap and rebuild a faith that no longer fits. We learn to walk into the new, messy journey called life. Hello everyone and welcome back to Faith Undone. Today we have something really special we want to share with you. I have a special guest, Terry Rice, today, and so this is going to be so powerful. We're here at Ethos in my backyard, my side yard, and we're going to have a great conversation live. So hope you enjoy this. This is my friend Terry. Everyone say hi, Terry.
Hi.
This is Terry Rice, and Terry is one of the most interesting, kind people I have ever met in my life. How many of you know Terry, by the way? It's a couple. Good. You know of Terry. You saw the handsome picture of Terry on Facebook. That's why you're here. Yeah, good. Thought this guy must have something interesting to say. So Terry, I'm just going to ask some questions to Terry, and Terry's going to share his story. So Terry is a chaplain. He is an incredible human being. You become kind of a spokesperson for the LGBT community, correct? In many different places that you swim. Terry is also an individual who everywhere he goes, he just seems to make connections with people. And it's kind of interesting to watch when Terry starts talking, and just the little bit that I've known you now, just watching you, people just feel comfortable and loved when they're around you. And so I'm going to introduce you to Terry now. And Terry, why don't you just tell us a little bit about yourself, what you're doing right now, and then I want to get into your story.
Okay, yes. Well, I now live in Walla Walla, Washington. How many of you know Walla Walla, Washington? Okay, all right. There's some people. My background is Seventh-day Adventist, and so Walla Walla is familiar to some of you because it's one of the places people go for college, and I never really set foot there until like maybe since 2009, it's created
Thriving metropolis.
It's a yes, about like maybe 30,000 people or so. Let's see what else. I've been involved with LGBT inclusion in there. I've just been asked by professors and people in the community to discuss different things for dealing with LGBTQ needs. Especially in the context of faith and spirituality, like how to integrate their faith with their orientation or their sexual identity. And so like this July, I'm encouraged to do a palliative care conference on dealing with healthcare, LGBT healthcare needs in the Valley. And also helped start up a Gay Straight Alliance for the Walla Walla University campus as well. And I'm a chapter leader for the Walla Walla Valley Kinship, which is associated with Seventh-day Adventist Kinship International, which is an LGBT support group that's been around, since 1974 or something like that. And I came out like let's say I'd say back in 2008, and decided to live my life more authentically and let the cards fall as they do, and it's been a rush, definitely an adrenaline rush. And been meeting amazing people in the process, but it's also been pretty challenging too, and helping me understand. I'm at a place where my job is no longer in jeopardy if I was out, and that's been the case before as a Bible teacher in the Adventist schools.
Okay, let's go there.
Okay.
So, Terry, this is so good. Terry has this story, and I feel like if I were in your shoes, Terry, I would be tempted to be a very angry, bitter person more than I already am. And I feel like the way that you are the nicest, kindest person, and you continue to love and show connection and forgiveness. And so I think it'd be really interesting for them to hear your story. So you just mentioned you were a Bible teacher.
Yeah.
Can we mention where you were a Bible teacher?
Yeah, at
Okay.
Fresno Adventist Academy.
Yes. Okay, good. So Fresno Adventist Academy, you were how long were you a Bible teacher there?
From 2005 to 2007.
Okay. And you were teaching what grades?
Grades 9 through 12, except for 11th. I think 9th, 10th, and 12th
Okay.
grades.
Got it. 11th doesn't need Bible. They just
Yeah, they had
they just need
our
deodorant.
principal had taught that class, and he wanted to teach a class like
Okay.
that. So,
Got it.
and I taught world history and U.S. government as well. And
Nice. Okay. So when you were teaching Bible, were you aware that if you came out, there could be some issues? Was there a struggle going on? Because you hadn't come out yet, but you were
Yeah.
teaching Bible. What was it like, the cognitive dissonance there? I'm sure you had to have conversations.
Yeah.
Do you toe the line? What do you do? What was that
Well,
like?
in many ways, I guess I can start back like when I was in college, or even, I mean, I don't want to go through a whole, you know, but to try to answer your question a little more thoroughly, like, I mean, I knew I was gay when I was a junior high, you know, going through puberty or so, and then trying out dating and such. I can maybe count like 3 dates I had like in college, and I just felt like, boy, how come, you know, I like this guy better than the girl that's I'm dating, you know?
And I'm supposed to like the
I'm
girl, but
supposed to like
there's
this
no interest
girl.
there.
And
Okay.
I'm like, well, I gotta cut this out because I'm pretty much lying to her. And so, and then like later on, and I think that probably I had a passion for serving God in the church, and was really into the mission and such like that. And so the idea of me being a preacher, though, too much spotlight would be like, nah, you know, people might know me too much, you know, and so teaching seemed to be a little bit more of a palliative way of doing ministry. And so I went into teaching, and I say, well, maybe I could do this as a single person for the rest of my life, you know, and
So you kind of resigned yourself to say,
yeah,
I'm just gonna be single. I'm gonna toe the line.
right, yeah, and that's how I would like after seminary, I got an MDiv through the seminary, and I, you know, this is maybe what I could do, but apparently, homosexuality is a hot topic in the church.
I think we're all surprised by that right here in this
And
group.
so,
Yeah.
and there's this great polarization, sort of, and it's almost seemed like in Fresno, people are like, you know, almost like, you know, people just wonder if someone's gay or not, you know, and
And you had some interesting experiences with some of the kids. People started talking.
yeah.
What was? Can you just give a little bit of? Because I would love for them to get a little bit of texture of
Yeah.
what was happening and how you chose to respond.
Yeah. Um, you know, I I didn't process my own sexuality as I was closeted. I kept putting the idea back in my mind, so I didn't really process it, and I suppose took on the Adventist or even evangelical Christian assumption of who a gay person is, and that would be like a gay person is attracted to the same sex and also promiscuous and um, uh, sexually addicted.
Deviant, yeah.
Could be a pedophile. Could be a lot of different things. You know, just a list of things that go on, and so in my mind it's like, oh well, if that's the case, then I'm not gay. So I would do a white lie in a sense that if someone asked me if I was gay, then I would say that. And let's see, am I answering your question?
You went through some some issues while you were teaching that kind of led you
Oh,
to
yeah.
leave teaching.
Yeah, so there would be times where my freshman students would come uh, up like after class, and um, as as a way to make trouble or so. And at that time, I didn't disclose to anyone that I was gay. Um, it could have been my mannerisms. It could have been, I might be a little more effeminate or so. I don't know, but they were acting effeminate, as if they were trying to solicit some kind of response from me, and
Just ugly.
I asked them to leave the class and such, and I remembered that repeating a bit, and I even shared that with the principal. I said, these students are kind of uncomfortable, and but I and then I guess there's a lot of things when you're gay and you're in these unaffirming environments. You get all this great support, and I remember people, even my principal, being very supportive, and then there's a silence, and you just don't know what's going on, and then suddenly there's an action, and you're like, wow, what just happened?
And what was the
um,
action?
I'd say they I got a call from the principal. They said they're having a church board meeting in 15 minutes. And I say, well, I can get my shoes on and start heading down there.
And
this-
they'd had no connection with you, no talking,
No
hey, there's an
discussion.
issue. It was just 15 minutes around this meeting.
yeah, have this quick meeting.
Fantastic.
And then later on, they made the decision that they wanted me to go, um, and I had a measure with the superintendent there and the president, and they had tears in their eyes, and I didn't exactly know what was going on. And I remember Fern saying, we would recommend that you not even uh, uh, continue teaching in the Adventist church or so. Don't seek a job in any academy anywhere. And they didn't give me any reason why. It was really weird. And then said, but we'll give you a salary to the end of the year. Here's your salary for the end of the year. I was like, well, I like to work for it.
Okay, first off, did you catch what Terry just said? I would like to work for it. I think some of us would be like, 6 months, done. See you
Yeah.
later. I'll be in
And-
And
and and at
but
that time,
you're like, no, I want to work for it. I want to.
right, yeah.
You're just incredible. Yeah.
And then I guess I was also involved with just voluntarily starting up a young adults ministry, doing a Bible study at my house, and we called it Fresno Fusion.
Fresno
It was kind
Fusion.
of like an effort to unite liberal and conservative Adventists in the area, try to bring more unity as young adults or so,
Which sounds scary.
and
Oh, it's amazing.
and yeah, and I guess I just kind of focused on that. It's like, can you give me paycheck like every month? I asked them, like they were gonna give me a lump sum. It's like I like to at least get a paycheck like once a month, just to feel like I'm at least working for this. And they did that. So and then that got on pretty well. I had a lot of support from two doctors and a dentist, and there was a businessman who said, "Hey, I have a house behind my house, and you can stay in that house as long as you're able to focus on your ministry." And so I had like my medical expenses, dental expenses, work. My house is all paid for and such, and I was just getting a small team to do to worship, to hold services in small churches in that time or so, and so that was amazing. And while that was going on, I was also noticing how the conference was like I had a gay Adventist person in that
Small group.
who was really, because of his presence, was pushing the issue with me. It's like, here he is being authentic, and I felt so inauthentic. And as he was asking for resources, I was starting to, well, I'm giving him resources, but this is also for me too.
Wow.
and I checked online for different resources. The San Francisco First SDA Church, they had a LGBT ministry with the website and all that sort of stuff, and they gave me the basics of what being gay is, which is simply being attracted to the same sex, and then coming out means that you're public, that you're letting other people know, and coming out doesn't just happen once; it happens almost every time that you meet a friend.
You can't just post on Facebook and be done with it. Just tell me.
I came close though. I was in the newspaper like 3 or 4 years ago. And I was in the front page paper
That is Terry Rice
in Walla Walla. And it was at every doorstep there in Walla Walla, I guess. But it was in the UB. But anyway, so it just kind of gave me some understandings and how I can be a Christian, and wrestling with the idea of like, how do we deal with these texts? And there's like 6 or 7 texts that deal with homosexuality, and what are the different interpretations of that, and just, I think how I came to the conclusion is just based on, well, God is loving, and how on earth would he, it's impossible for me to try to switch my mind to like girls, just as much as like as straight people. It's must be difficult. Like if someone told you, no, the right way is to like another guy or like the same sex. I mean, you can't change. You can't switch.
I don't think people
know?
often fully get that either. I think
Yeah.
there's still that idea. How do you respond when people say, "Well, it's just a choice"? This guy Terry, he just made a choice because
Yeah.
he just wanted
Yeah, it's like, did you choose to be straight?
Okay,
And
good.
and often people was like, well, no, not really. I was just sort of born that way. If you think about the first time you were attracted to girls, it wasn't some sort of choice that you made. So just, if you ask anyone who's gay, they pretty much will tell you that it's not a choice.
It's who they are.
It's just
yeah.
who they are. Yeah, and imagine like if you're to believe that that God created, now that you know that God created you that way, and then to come across these texts and have them interpreted saying, well, now you can't act on these feelings, and therefore you have to be celibate for the rest of your life or so. And
Smile and live that. Yeah.
and basically deny yourself intimacy and belonging, and because like, and people don't realize that what that means is that we're not allowed to have families of our own or so, and we're not allowed to experience that that intimacy, not only with with spouses but also with our families. And so it's and then to welcome in our churches, um, like imagine churches welcoming you with these conditions. um, Many people still don't understand your needs.
Right, because I think a lot of people assume, well, this is how we've interpreted these texts, and so you must see them the same way as us,
Yeah.
and so we need you to be this way in order to fully accept you in.
Yeah.
And I know so many people who have been told you can't be upfront. It used to be that if you weren't wearing a tie or a suit, I remember hearing like you can't be upfront. Then for them, it was who you are is so bad to us that we can't actually have your presence up front. We can't
Yeah.
have you be a leader. We can't have you work with children. We can't have you be in the choir.
Yeah.
What is that like to hear people say that?
Well, it could be pretty traumatic, Like a church setting is pretty nervous for me, right now, because I've been denied this in front of like pastors and elders telling me, yeah, you can't set up on the stairs of the podium.
What you mean? Stand?
Yeah, stand on the podium or so,
Got it.
in anything, because that's a leadership position, and people might think that the church are condoning your views on homosexuality, and that was told to me, I'd say back in 2013 or so, something like that,
So,
and
so from after leaving that teaching position,
mhm,
you started that group, and you started going through how do we read these texts in a responsible way? Do these
yeah,
texts really mean what they do? If God is love, then why would God, you know, make, how could I be born this way
mhm,
and immediately be on the outs? And why would a God that is love allow that to happen? I have no choice. And if that's truly, if these people are following God's will, I'm using a lot of phrasing
yeah,
that's loaded, but how could that all fit in? There's a lot of cognitive dissonance. So you were working through all of that, asking the
yeah,
questions. What does this mean? What does this mean?
mhm,
After you worked your way through that, and by the way, if you guys have any questions over this at the end, this is going to be kind of a fun opportunity. We can talk about those texts. We can talk about how do we view them responsibly? What's the context? All of that, because I think that'd be a lot of fun too. But
yeah.
moving with your story, you how did that group work out, and where did you go from there after that group? And by the way, just the fact that you chose not to become an angry person and have your picket signs and all of that immediately to me is a miracle. But you
Yeah.
you said, "Oh no, I love these people, and I'm going to find a way to minister to them."
That's right. Yes.
Like I don't. Is that miraculous to anyone but me in here? Like that's pretty miraculous.
Yeah,
So
I
again,
think,
I affirm
well,
you.
and that the key is, well, the key is to stay connected with people that are loving and affirming in your life, and to, if they represent the body of people that rejected you, a great way to process your anger is to be able to interact with them, and realize not everyone from that camp or so is against you, that crossed you that way, and it also helps to understand that this is, this is where they're at, and they, where Jesus was saying, Father, forgive them, for they know not what they do, and they really don't know what they're doing in this situation, especially because this is a lot of people have a lot of things have been colored up as to what a gay person is, and um and it doesn't mean, um you you s- you still set up boundaries, for yourself, and part of those is like, um if people are giving you the cold shoulder, not to hang out with you, or to, um don't go there, don't set yourself up for rejection or so.
Don't keep going back to the destructive thing, but
Yeah, yeah. Go to
allow that to
go to
be what it
places that
is.
are welcoming, wanting, and desiring for your contribution, you as a resource.
Okay, so
And
since you said that, you're out. You came out. No, you haven't come out yet, have you? In this story,
oh
after
yeah,
the high school experience, you start this group.
yeah.
Where are you finding loving, affirming community at that point? Because you've kind of
Um,
created your own, but that fusion, it didn't
mm,
last.
yeah.
And so, where did you go after that, and how did you find community?
Um, I reached out to. I went, in San Francisco. Um, I got accepted a position at UCSF Medical Center, with their clinical pastoral education program, which a Master Divinity is required for that kind of
And you had that.
residency. And so, fortunately, through seminary, even though I didn't want to be a pastor, um, that opened up a possibility for work outside the Adventist Church, and so there, as my supervisors were identified as lesbian or bisexual, and it just opened up a whole world of these professionals that are LGBTQ, and so I worked the courage in front of 20 chaplains as they asked me who I was, and I decided to come out for
Okay, wait.
everyone.
So your first moment of putting that out,
Yeah.
giving that breath,
Uh-huh.
was in front of kind of strangers still.
Yeah, I mean, there's some with my mom and my father, so and fortunately it was pretty affirming or so. But then, like, more, that was the first public time, I guess.
And
Yeah.
so how did it feel, and what was
Oh,
the
I was
response?
very vulnerable, that's for sure. And I was like, and guys, don't tell any Seventh day Adventists, I said. I said, please don't tell any. So I was like, I just leaked something, like some kind of terrible thing that could be used against me, and then I went on. It was the Prop 8 kind of thing going on at that time, and I saw this thing coming from Loma Linda about Adventists against Prop 8, and I thought, wow, that's a nice petition that's going around. I'd probably find somebody who might connect me to some kind of community. So I saw a name with the San Francisco, where he's from, and he connected me to Kinship, which is Seventh-day Adventist support group. And there's like in that church that I got the website from the San Francisco First Church, they did a clean house at that time where some people who were organists and people up front teaching Sabbath school, they all left since that time to start up what they called Second Wind, and it was led by Greg Nelson.
Greg Nelson, good
And
man.
so it's like an asylum, I guess, or so, like for LGBT people from that church or so. And so I went there and tested the waters, and I also went to Berkeley SDA Church, and Ron
Ron
Piquel
Piquel. Good.
we had a great conversation of 3 hours or so, and I thought he would demote me or some kind of thing, for even possibilities of working with him. And he says, "Hey, we could use you to help out with the post collegiate group or so."
What did that feel like when someone says, "Oh, you're not demoted.
Yeah,
We could use you. We see talent in you." What?
yeah,
That must have felt so
that was
good.
wonderful, and I felt very safe with him, and and yeah, and it was awesome, and he was very much in, like, if I need any recommendations, he would give that, and
And he let you park your car in their church parking lot for like a year, right?
that's right, yes, for a whole year. Because I lived
That's
in the
awesome.
Tenderloin district, and there's like there's no parking really there. Yeah.
Beautiful.
And then from there, I was decided, I'm gonna, instead of doing the same. Apparently, what the Adventist Church is requesting of me to do, to be celibate, single, and such, is not viable even by their standards or so. And I felt like, well, why, if it's not viable, why even try to even continue being in the closet and work through this kind of thing? And I was like, no, I think I'm going to be open and honest and authentic for the rest of my life. And that was a choice I made. And I chose it by talking to Ron Piquel, who was, and also Pastor Mitchell from PUC. They were the two first paid pastors, I guess you can say, by the conference.
And their
which,
response was not,
right,
or-
they're very, very encouraging.
nice, good.
And then I needed a job right after my internship, and I was thinking about coming down here.
Okay, so this is where it gets really interesting, and I want you to hear this. He finishes this schooling.
Yeah.
Time to look for a job. You've come out to these beautiful people outside of the tribe you were in.
Yeah.
You're beginning to find connection. You are able to begin to be more authentically you.
Yeah.
And you're beginning to be fed outside. And now you've got a job opportunity. So tell them, where's this job opportunity? What's the connection?
Well,
Go
I
for it.
mean, the economy was terrible in California then, and they said ahead of time, you guys got to look out elsewhere beyond California to get a job. And I said, no, if I'm gonna find like a boyfriend, or I gotta stay in the cities and such. And so I was pursuing here, in Southern California area, I got my name in the database of Providence Healthcare System, which I knew had a non-discrimination policy, and that got my name in the database, and this thing kept coming back on the database for a chaplain in Walla Walla, and I'm like, Walla would be the last place I'd want to go to. And
The middle of nowhere.
yes,
No
and
people.
then
You're not going to find anyone to date there. By the
and
way.
these Adventist enclaves, they'll be the last place to do to anything. But it's like, but it's this kind of voice you hear, like God throwing these paradoxes, and that's what I was hearing, like this God throwing a curveball of sorts. Go into the lion's den. That was basically his saying.
Got it.
But the lion's den had green lights. The lion's den had like people wanting me to come there to help start things up, and to bring a safe place for students, and to provide these LGBT students who have no support, a place where they can feel they can belong and feel loved, and go through an Adventist college, and graduate, with that experience, and then also the community too. There's LGBT Adventists that were like, hey, we're looking for a place to worship. Terry, are there any places we can worship? And I had like Vespers at my house with our kinship group singing
A Vespers,
Christmas Carol.
a Vespers means,
Yeah.
for many of you listening to, basically a Friday night where people get together and they study, they worship, they do kind of spiritual things together to bring in the weekend.
Yeah, and it was awesome, beautiful, and lesbian couple came, and I also got involved in a Sabbath school class, and while I am out, the question never asked me like, are you gay or whatever, so I just accepted the Sabbath school teaching position at a young adults church, because part of it was like, well, are there any welcoming or affirming churches out there? Well, I'm going to find out myself.
I'm going to find out by taking on a leadership role.
Yes, and it's like, I mean, my job is, I had
Safe.
security and such, so I can do these things, and yeah, and she reached out to me over the phone. She was really having trouble, and it was so sad. I didn't know how to. I wish I knew there was a welcoming place, and this is serious. The next day, she put a gun to her head and she committed suicide, and that really hurt. And I felt like I was one of the last people she was talking to, but that that stuck in me as like, you know what? I'm going to go to my... and then her partner asked me, hey, if you're leading the Sabbath school class, can you guys pray for me? I really need support right now. And can you do my service, the funeral or so? And so I was able to do that. But I also, like, in the prayer, what do I say there? Do I say, oh, I know this person, she needs your prayer, but not give details, Why? Is it because I'm afraid about my position being removed? Is it because of me that I'm holding this back? No, I decided, no, that's not going to be the way I'm going to operate my life.
Nice.
Let the cards fall as they do, and if that means being demoted, then I will not do that.
Were you demoted?
I was, yes. And I said a prayer with Susie, or for Susie, and the people, it was a division in the class, supportive. There's one person who was like Weimar conservative, and if explanation, that's like ultra Adventist conservative.
That's like long dresses and Puritan culture.
And I thought he would be the least affirming person, but he there's some righteous indignation there from him. He's like, I have certain beliefs that this church doesn't teach, and Terry never once talked about homosexuality in the class or forward his beliefs and such. He should be reinstated as a Sabbath school teacher.
Right. So the Puritan, the Weimar guy,
Yeah.
he's the one that has the heart and the connection and says, this is wrong.
Yes.
The only one that speaks out
That's
is the
right.
one that blows you away because he's the one that you would assume would be,
Right.
oh, that's
Yeah.
so good.
And then and it was sad. Like, guys, can we focus on Susie? Why is it about my beliefs? I remember asking someone, emailing me, the person had a problem with me. What are your beliefs on homosexuality and such? And I was like, can we talk about it over like coffee, or if you don't drink coffee, post them or something like that. And I think I actually
I don't
said
think
that,
anyone
actually,
should ever
so-
drink Postum.
So, green beverage, or so,
And-
but
and
no,
would it-
no,
would it
he
be
didn't want to. He wanted to know what I believed. I said, "This is what I believe. This is what the church believes." And then I got a call from the pastor, and the pastor, 2 weeks later, I was
demoted.
removed from teaching Sabbath school, which was fine. I was like, "Well, get me into another position." This is the part where I wasn't so fine, is that they didn't put me in another position anywhere, and I was just sort of like hanging on. I was noticing that the young adults class was sort of doing their own thing, and I was like, hey, I could be involved too, and it was that then I realized, nope, this is not a welcoming place, and I moved towards more focus to the university. And with education and awareness, there's a little bit more like, hey, we can use you as a resource for LGBT students and such.
And by the way, let me bring up this. The college is not asking Terry to do any of this. Terry is going out of his way to say, I know there are students that
Yeah.
need conversation, even though the school doesn't actually. Is it safe to say they're not really looking or desiring for you to?
Like, not officially, like,
they
individual
can't, right?
professors, they would talk to me and such. And there's some professors that were, in the closet and in LGBT themselves. And
Got it.
and then the chaplains there are also pretty, like, they see the value behind it too. And
Wow. So they can't officially, but they can unofficially
yeah, everything's
say,
unofficial.
"Boy, it would be nice if you were here,
Yeah.
speaking to people." So let me move the conversation to here. You are. You're at Walla Walla. You are able to unofficially do certain things. They can't put your name on anything.
Yeah.
You've been kind of hurt by. Even when you step in, you've tried to have leadership positions. You're a talented guy. You can offer so much. They continue kind of pushing you out, but you stick with it.
Uh-huh.
You're working in a job outside of that tribe.
Mm-hmm.
You're safe there, but you still have this desire to reach those people.
Yeah, I was still looking for, and also personal needs. Just like I'm looking for a place to worship or call my own as my own church too.
Got it. Where you told me you found. I love the. Tara and I had Thai food the other day, and I asked him a couple of these questions. You found a spiritual home in one place and a ministry. Basically, you're being fed here and you're evangelizing here.
Yeah.
Explain that to us real quick.
Yeah. So fast forward to yeah, and I finally got the like a no in the Adventist church. And University Church is a different animal in a sense. They're there to serve the university, so the idea of church on university campuses, it's hard to really compare. So like, I remember, hey, how can I get involved? And at first, man, it was hard. There's like, oh, there's Sunbridge, like a community center, you can get involved there, but what about in the church? But fortunately, the chaplain there got me as a mentor for freshmen. So now I teach freshmen
Wow.
there, and it's paid, like past, like part-time kind of stuff, which I'm amazed. I'm still very vulnerable because they can easily use the discrimination they can easily discriminate, and I'll be out of a job or so. But fortunately, it's not my full time.
Right.
But and also, like, I remember trying to sing on a praise team in one Adventist college or church, and they got the pastors together, and there was like, because of your views on homosexuality, people might think that, you being on the steps, singing on a praise team, that the church is condoning your views, and you can't do that. So it's pretty much a no. Even though I'm living the SDA lifestyle of what a gay person is. We're not talking about like I'm dating someone or so, even though I'm open to it.
You're in Walla Walla.
And my but yes, I mean, realize, guys, like what are the there's like maybe 10% of the world that's gay or so, if that or so. And then out of that, how many people are closeted? And then how many what's the percentage of them are Christian? And what is the percentage of those that are Seventh-day Adventists? How many of those are actually in Walla Walla? I mean,
There's
not
one
that
guy.
I'm,
His name is Steve.
and
Yeah, I don't know.
fortunately, I'm open to other faiths and or no faith, so long as we respect each other. But still, people don't realize that it's we're a real minority here, and our needs, are very specific, and you can't just equate us as single adults ministries as satisfying our needs, because we live in a climate where we're forbidden to have families of our own. We're forbidden to date. We're forbidden to do these other things. So equating us to young adult ministries is not enough. And another thing is, I'm sorry, I got sidetracked
No,
with your
that
question.
was a good sidetrack. Man, I want to get back to what we're talking about, but let me bring it to this. I'm amazed that after all of this stuff that you've been through, you were not angry. Well, I'm sure there was some anger, but you seem to have processed it and recycled it and used it to bring healing and restoration for other people. That's not normal.
Yeah, and
So let me just ask,
like the
how did you do
Eastgate
it?
Church. Like, I kept going to the Eastgate Church to meet some friends there, and people that would welcome me for different things. So it's these places that you're that have scratched you off. Recognize the you have to be with them to experience their humanity, and you have to be able to see that they're survivors too in this world, and all this is kind of crazy for them, and they are thinking about themselves. Like, supporting you, Terry, would jeopardize their their status in the community too. And I've had people apologize to me, like, we're sorry, we, and yeah, it's
It-
and
I think let me
yeah.
I love I don't love it. I think it's sad, but it's a reality that you were able to say it's just how it is. That the way you view things, the way that you live, it causes people to have to change or have to almost renegotiate how the furniture's set in their head, and that's really uncomfortable. And I think that just understanding that you being fully you, authentically you, will in fact cause people to be discomfortable, and knowing that it's not you, it's their issue.
Yeah.
That's so hard to learn.
They're scared of their own situation, and you see, also have to look at the progress. Don't look at the progress based on your awareness. Look at the progress and where they're coming from, where they are now.
Right.
When they just did a poll at WallU, how many people would do you think that we as a university should affirm LGBTQ people? And it was 55%.
Wow.
And for me, I was like, wow, it's better than 30%. I share this with the Pride community, and they're, oh, that's terrible. I said, but hey, that's so I think they helping put things in perspective. For this particular for Adventism, I see a trajectory of people there. I mean, I can't say what the church will do or say. You're dealing with millions of people in a world church, and I can't wait until I'm 90 to stick around like as my whole community. That would be very oppressive to just have Adventism as my place I get filled spiritually and personally and such.
And that's
I
why
ha-
you're at UC
I'm at United Church of Christ downtown. They have a rainbow flag in the sanctuary that just says, we affirm you. And
Anyone hearing that? Are you thinking rainbow flag in the sanctuary?
yeah,
Oh,
yeah, and it's great, and it was the first time that my experience in a church when I became a member there. He just explained to the congregation, it says Terry Rice is a Seventh-day Adventist, and he's now part of the United Church of Christ. He has dual identities.
they didn't. So they didn't say you have to be one of us. You can be both of us.
Yeah.
And we're okay with that.
Yeah, and he says we don't want to diminish his efforts at the university, Wildwood University, and we want to be there to support him. We don't want to diminish any of that, and they've also been very like asking me, can you be in our choir? Can you be in our men's ministry? Can you be in? And they just constant requests and such, and I kind of eased into it.
And that's where you've been fed.
Yeah, it has been, and it's kind of working up. Like since that time of saying you can't sing on a praise team, I'm already kind of a shy person as it is, let alone having that. So now I'm up front every Sunday, and I'm working the courage back again.
So beautiful.
And also now doing the liturgy as well, and I've been asked to preach at a small UCC church in Dayton, and I was able to do that.
So good.
So I'm doing things in congregational ministry that have been denied doing, and still in the Adventist church you're denied doing these things. And
so let me ask you this. I keep cutting you off. I hope I'm not.
Yeah. Oh, that's fine. I'm
glad.
good.
You don't get angry, so I can keep doing that. Let me ask you this. So I think this is really important. We're going to wrap up in about 7 minutes or so, but to do question and answer. But
Yes,
I would love for people, especially on the podcast, to hear this, but everyone here as well. I think a lot of churches, I'll hear churches say, we are accepting of the LGBTQ community. Mm-hmm. When you hear accepting versus affirming, I'd like you to explain the difference for people. Yeah. And especially if you were to walk into a congregation and someone had said, no, Terry, we're accepting. What does that mean to you versus, Terry, we're affirming?
Yeah.
Explain that and why that's important.
Well, it's like, yeah, and in that process of finding another church or so, and I don't want to name names in this particular situation. There was a Foursquare church.
You just did though.
No, but it's not. There's a number.
Oh,
of
it's a larger
churches. There's a number.
I'm not gonna name names, but here's a church.
But not. That's not the name of their church.
Got it.
But it's basically, and they have a struggle with like Adventists too. But I remember them. Oh, the pastor was very welcoming, and he didn't quite know how to process homosexuality, but he kept inviting me to come to different things, and I invited a lot of people to that church and helped get it up and running as well, in the sense of making connections for them or so. But hindsight, I was never asked to lead a prayer or to do anything up front. I was never like my spiritual gifts, even a Bible study that I had at my house or so, not one of them showed up or so. But I'm welcome to come to their things.
Wow.
That's when I just want to emphasize, I'm welcome to come. Uh, but how about, how about valuing my spiritual gifts? You know, um, putting me into the community where I could be useful, and not sitting in a chair and listening, being the one listening to others.
So
And
accepting would essentially mean we accept you into our space,
mhm.
but that's as far as it goes.
Yeah,
You can sit and enjoy what we have, but
and it comes across very parental, I
mm,
guess you can say. Um, and just you feel like everyone else has Jesus except for you.
mm,
and when I shared my faith, just like I'm sharing with you how it's brought courage to my faith in God in this whole experience. For them, this is to hear that is blasphemy in many ways, and
right.
it makes them feel uncomfortable, and that's not I needed a place that would affirm both my walk with God and my faith, and the First Congregational Church in Walla has been there for me for that.
When someone says to you, "I love you, but Terry, I hate your sin." Tell
Yeah.
me how that lands for you, because there's a lot of people I've heard them and they'll say it like
Yes.
it's the most loving thing they could have said to you.
Oh no.
But please tell people this is how that lands for us.
Yeah, it's like I love you, but I actually hate this part of you.
I hate an actual part of who you are.
Yeah. And I don't think straight people realize how much they express their orientation in conversation. When you introduce each other, you often introduce your wife or your girlfriend or so. And so you therefore disclose that you're straight. Um,
Mm,
and you also, um, uh, just many different things that we do in a heteronormative environment. It just comes naturally. But at that time, am I safe enough to express my love for another guy, or that I like this guy's cute or not cute or so? Can I contribute to that conversation? Do I have a space for that? That people will also, oh, that's a cool perspective. I'm glad you're here in this conversation. So this is something that you can use your straight identity for good. You can use your privilege for good,
mm,
in providing space for any minority, but LGTB say, hey, instead of uh, like when you have the contra dances or something like that, you can say, hey, we have a leader and we have a follower. That'd be one example where you're allowing for the LGBT community to take part in your dances and such, for example.
nice.
That would be an affirming environment, or another affirming environment um, would would be like, what are some needs that how does this person in front of us that's in our community, how do they give love and how do they receive love, and try to
Nice.
respond in kind. Realize that there's some things that they've been deprived of,
Mm.
whether it's touch or words of affirmation, or something like that. and
Can you give
and
us an example of what that would look like for people? I think a lot of people listening, if you can just give a couple, like, here's an example of how that would look and
um
feel to someone.
yeah, well, uh I guess, I'm a person who loves a good greeting hug, and that's for me, that's great. In my home, I'm a single guy that owns a house, and I don't get that on an everyday basis.
Mm.
So not everyone is a huggy person, and I get that, but that
Make
would be
sure
one
you hug
example.
Terry after we're done. Everyone, just give him big
so
hugs.
so
Good. You're going to get lots of hugs.
but yeah, that would be one example. And or like think or let's say that you have Christmas dinner or Thanksgiving dinner, and our mindsets go towards like, this is the time for family, and rightly so.
Mm.
That's a time where we can spend time with our families. But what is it in the scriptures? We talk about Christians like not neglecting the widows and the orphans and the
Mhm.
and people. So, as you're thinking about that, what about other people in their community that might be like might have their Christmas alone or so? Think about like maybe setting an extra chair in your table or so, something like that. That would be one example. Or road trips, family trips. You know, for me, you know, um, going on road trips like this or so, this is awesome. It's for me, it's being able to connect with people and realizing people our age or so. It's primarily families you go with on road trips and such. So think about what are their interests, and if things are like that, then why not? Or even like with other families, like talk about like, hey, maybe one time, like for one Sabbath, hang out for one with one family or another family another Sabbath or something like that.
So good.
So those are all examples for
Beautiful.
meeting needs.
Ah, I love it. Um, I could talk to you all day. I think that probably these guys are going to get a little bit warm in a few minutes, but I want to make sure Terry has an incredible story, and we scratched the surface of it really. And so what I would like to do right now though is we're going to do question and answer for a few more minutes. And then I just want to have some just time where you can come talk to Terry. Give him big hugs, make him uncomfortable with how tightly you squeeze him, and do the really like long one, the prolonged one, where you don't quite let him go for a couple minutes. Make him feel real uncomfortable. No, make him feel loved. But questions for Terry or even myself, whatever
Yeah. Any
whatever comes up. This
questions?
could be
Thank
a lot
you.
of fun. You don't get this very often, and so any questions, comments, whatever. Let's just hear them, and I'll make sure to anyone listening. I'll make sure to say the question again out loud so you can hear it. But let's get some questions. The question is the individual said that they work in Hollywood, and oftentimes the picture of homosexuals is that it's a bunch of people just sleeping around, partying, doing all of that. How do you combat that picture?
Yeah. Well, I guess you can also state the um, like um, when we're dealing with sexual ethics. I guess that'd be a good way of dealing with this. It's like um, when when you're lacking community. Um, this is natural whether you're heterosexual, homosexual, or
I like that you
not.
put that. It's no
And
matter what
so
you, yeah.
so no matter who you are, if you're lacking community, um, oftentimes it's human nature to go to self-medication of some sort, whether
Mm,
it's drugs or alcohol or sexual addiction. And um and so um uh recognize that when or if you ever come across gay people that maybe um, that might experience or share that or so, um, recognize that these are symptoms or so, and then what's our role? Well, our role is to provide that community or so.
the community that they're lacking
Yeah,
and making up for. Ah, that's a good answer. Okay, good. Anyone else? Questions? All right, so that's good. The question is,
very good
Terry,
question.
why, knowing that the SDA tradition says that is a sin,
Right.
that is not acceptable, and we don't have room for that, especially in leadership, why do you continue at least reaching out to them? Why do you keep finding ways to still be connected? Why?
Well, I guess I can answer much that I've also heard from a Jew and from a Catholic and from a Mormon. Um, and when you're like a fifth generation Catholic or you're a fourth generation, I'm a fourth generation SDA, and then your heritage and legacies, you of a missionary legacy of from of with parents living in India and my father being born there and my mother being born in Australia into Adventism there, and grandfather was president of an Adventist college in Spicer Memorial College or so.
Wow.
So it's like, and then I'm growing up in a pretty conservative like school, Southern Adventist University, a pretty and so
People are laughing because that is a very conservative school.
yeah, and so when you think of that, it's like all this culture is really also a part of who I am, and I can't just take a shower and just shower it off and just like okay.
I've tried many times,
and because it'll come up, even if you deny it, it'll come up in some form or fashion, and the best way to handle it is like, yeah, these are some mannerisms and these are some cultural things that I just grew up with. All these rules and such, when I go to a restaurant called Bacon and Eggs or something like that, there's going to be a little bit of excitement going on inside of me. And, I just broke another rule. It makes life kind of interesting in some ways.
All right. What I hear, yeah. Okay. So there are always going to be elements of your tribe that kind of stick with you.
Yeah.
And yet at the same time, you can walk in the new UCG. You can walk in that new place where you're being fed.
Yes.
But you can also learn to appreciate some of the positive things that were there, and then laugh at some of the things that may not have been so positive, knowing that that's their own story, that's their own journey.
Yeah.
Oh,
yeah, it's
this
in
is
that
a
way
treat.
you're not
This is good.
demonizing the other. It's often whether we got kicked out or whatever you call it, you can really get some anger about whatever community you came from or so, and so you can often demonize the other, and they'll be the other, and sure, there is a time where some of us need to separate and be totally out, to redefine who they are from different things. Over time, in the long run, you're going to come back. It's like, yeah, I still have these kinds of Adventist quirks,
And they always call taco salad a haystack.
Haystacks or
Much
something like
to
that.
people's, the awkward looks of everyone else.
And
in there.
who's who. There's that, Adventists do poorly in local stuff, generally speaking, but they do well denominationally, and this is what I'm discovering with the UCC. As much as I like United Church of Christ, it's a Congregationalist focused church, and there's some good things from there, like getting involved with city policies and stuff like that. But if I just totally focused on United Church of Christ at this time, and I have friends from all over the world because the denominational focus of Adventism. And I credit the people that I've made friends with in Australia or England or wherever it is. I can come down here and have lots of friends here. And even though I've lived here when I was 4 or 5 or something like that, I'm like, after this, I'm going up to Loma Linda, and there's Walla University graduates that I've made connections with on this level of LGBTQ issues and stuff like that. These are pre-med students that become my friends, and we're having a potluck in the park or something like that.
And you still call it a potluck.
Yeah, and we just call it Terry's Potluck in the Park, and there's like 10 people coming or something like that.
I love it. So you're able to hold it all kind of lightly, but also know I can still sit with it a little bit, but I don't have to demonize it anymore.
Right. Yeah.
It's
and you're
fantastic.
making friends of many different backgrounds. Now I'm part of many cool communities, like some that are unlikely, like Adventism or so, but there's others that are pretty cool. There's this Young Farmers Coalition that's very
Young Farmers Coalition. You're a part of that.
I think
Tell me what is the deal with that?
I think that some of none of them like Trump. I think that's a commonality.
All right.
They're also into organic and outdoor stuff, and they also interested in growing food for the local farmers markets and such. And my friend, who's agnostic or so, he says, "Yeah, come hang out with our community or so." And I say, "Hey, I'm not a farmer." And he says, "That's okay. You'll fit right in." He's like, "I'm not a businessman." "Oh, no, that's fine." And I'm the only gay guy in the group.
You're the token gay guy.
Probably gay token or something like that. But yeah, and
Oh.
now I'm able to have gatherings, inviting them to my house and such, and then there's a
beautiful.
firefighter community as well, which is totally weird. I'm not a firefighter, never, yeah. So, and historically, they can be from homophobic too. But there's a person, I got kicked out of a small group by one of his buddies, and he gave me a call and he says, "Terry, I heard that you're looking for a small group and from YWU, and we're having one here at the fire station.
We're having one at the fire station. Did you
Why
get
don't
to
you
slide
come?"
down the pole?
I wish they had a poll. That'd been fun.
Oh, that'd be
But
so great. That's
then,
one of my.
like,
I need to do
I'm
that someday.
suddenly now, and he made it, and this is another thing for making an affirming place. Like, at the beginning of any small group or so, he says that we have people of many denominations and many different orientations, and everyone's voice is welcome at the table here.
Beautiful.
And whenever there was someone new, he would restate that. And he's become a good friend of mine. He's the straightest person around, but we're best of friends. And we're planning on going to Europe together later on this year and such. We're going to do lots of adventures together. And because of his leadership role as a lieutenant, he's made that station a safe place for me to come for barbecues or at Christmas time when I have to do like on call for hospice. They're on call as well, and we'll create Christmas dinners together. So it's like, and then some. So now my church now has broken down all kinds of barriers.
Wow.
And my church community is made up of many different people. And even my church community could be even like agnostics and atheists as well. There's some, and it's like many different faith backgrounds and such, and it's awesome. So yeah, I think this is
so rich.
This is a great place to be. I feel very happy with my life. I'm just not in a great place to find a boyfriend in Walla Walla. So
You got to move here to Southern California. That's your next move. I
Yeah.
feel like that door's opened. Any other questions? This is good. Yes. What could an Adventist group do locally and as a larger organization do to be more affirming was the
Okay.
question.
Well, I mean, you can't change people's perspectives. I mean, you gotta. So part of it, I wrote up this 10 tips on how conservative pastors can give care to gay people without
can we
changing
find
their
that?
convictions and such.
Where can people find that?
I can send it to you. Or
Oh,
so.
okay. I'll include it in the podcast in the bottom.
Yeah, and so that's something, because the first thing that conservative denomination, they do not want to change their beliefs on these things. So you have to work within that. And so I gave 10 tips on how you can meet gay people's needs, realizing that the view of ex-gay ministries, the view of that you can change, are not places that are welcoming at all. And the conversations can be very, very hurtful, except for maybe ex-gay ministries apologizing to gay people or so. That might be a fruitful conversation.
Nice.
But the the move to say that you can't change, you can be, you can quote the policies of being celibate and that sort of thing. We can still work with that. We can still work with policies within that context. And so yeah, I've written up, and I've used the Gay Christian Network's booklet as well as, some of their ideas combined as well. And so, and I went to the GC, the General Conference. They called me up. I was trying to get endorsed by the Adventist Church for my hospice chaplaincy, not because I just saw an open door and I just kept pursuing it. I could have just done it with the United Church of Christ, but I saw like, hey, I'm using my position to perhaps make a difference. And I've been told by people at the Adventist Chaplaincy Ministries that my case has been helpful in moving the church forward from ex-gay ministries or ex-gay kind of mentality to affirming or not affirming, but that you're gay. It's okay to be gay, but be celibate.
It's a step.
And it's a step, right? So,
Not a great step,
right?
but it's
But
kind of a
it's
step, I
and
guess.
you have to say
If you're Terry
that's
Rice, that's a
awesome.
positive
That's
step, and you
great.
celebrate.
Yeah,
But the rest of us are
because
like,
we
what?
just bumped it up a few decades, And I know they still have like because the decade in which society has taken us off the illness list or so is in 1976 or so, something
Wow.
around there. So, so the church has moved it to around there society wise. So we've got 40 more years to go to bring it up.
Got it.
But yeah.
Can you recap that for the audience listening? That question.
Like how did I feel when the church was making policies of dealing with whether or not I can marry, whether or not, I guess dealing with sex and whether I can date or not and things like that.
What did they come to? Did they say no? Like that's, I'm assuming that
Well,
was,
yeah.
religious institutions not wanting to talk about it. That's new.
Yeah. I mean, the NAD, the North American Division, did make a statement that ag- that has helped the church move from ex-gay stuff to, you can be gay but celibate, that kind of thing. They've made some steps that way, but yeah, it is kind of like, personal. I mean, it's, in some ways, why are Christians so obsessed about sex? And then also when I was at the GC, it was like,
question.
I'm a hospice chaplain. Why not ask me about questions about end of life care and how I care for patients and stuff? And then we were suddenly talking about homosexuality, and so that was kind of, and so, from a perspective that's like, wow, why are you worried about who I sleep with, and things like that.
Yeah,
And,
I don't recall talking to any of my straight friends about, hey, how's your sex life? I just don't feel like that comes up very often.
Yeah, so I just find it ironic.
But it comes up often for you.
That Christians are obsessed with sex, I guess.
Yeah,
Just
we like
kidding,
sex, I guess.
I mean,
apparently.
I'm just, from a perspective that's kind of funny.
Yeah.
And
yeah. Yeah. The
yeah.
comment was within that SDA tribe, they're still struggling with, do we give women equal rights?
Yeah.
And so, I mean, that's still people are saying that's a 20-year out issue that's going to be fought over.
And it's so sad,
And then
that my
then
tribe is still struggling with this,
Right, and then to have the conversation about LGBTQ and how to interpret these verses in a historically responsible way. That's why you're saying I don't want to wait till I'm 90. I need to experience.
You need to find places where you are affirmed by who you are, and that's where I'm finding with the First Congregational Church and other places, the Young Farmers Coalition or wherever it is, where people are just very, very encouraging, and then spend a lot of time there, get filled, and serve the people that as you feel emotionally able to. And I don't recommend anyone who feels that they need a detox. But there's gonna come a time where it's like, it's kind of like your family, serve them like you would serve your family that might not be there, and help them along, because they're gonna constantly have LGBT kids. They're still gonna have those struggles. They're still gonna grow up in these environments. There's still gonna be problems there. Yeah.
That's beautiful. How can an institution learn to be more affirming, less judgmental?
Yeah.
You're solving the world's problems today, Terry.
Yeah, well, sometimes you just do it. I mean, I suppose, I can say that because I'm unofficial and not paid, and I don't have the things that they have to do to keep their jobs, but like the cool thing is I'm able to enter into these campuses or into these churches and such, and do it because there's no, uh, you know, and I can give an example. Like they have this longest table at Waldwell University, and so I was like, you know what, guys? I asked my gay Christian friends and my
I love this story.
affirming straight family or so. We just why don't we adopt some tables and make it a welcoming place. This is a symbol. Like this longest table is a symbol of the kingdom of God being welcome, and that's what the theme is. And also for the community to welcome students back as well. What about us adopting some tables and welcoming gay people? And so we, social work professors and others, they had some rainbow tablecloths, and we brought some rainbow flags, and we made a whole lot of food for people got involved in making a lot of food, like sushi and all kinds of stuff for our table, and
you weren't
Italian
asked
food.
you weren't asked to be a part of that. You just
No.
showed up.
Yeah, and it was great. We didn't get anyone telling how terrible we were. We might have had a couple of looks, but and then I remember Pedrito, who's the diversity president or so. He was taking pictures of the of the table or so, and I said, "Hey, Pedrito, take a picture of our table. It's it's diversity."
And you said it in a kind way. You were not looking for a
Yeah,
fight.
I just welcomed him, and
Yeah.
and there he snapped a picture, and then he carried on. I mean,
And
that's
he
all he could
deleted
say,
it immediately. Yeah, that's good.
So I can, so if they share these things, I have the liberty to just kind of flesh it out.
It's beautiful. Just out of respect for everyone here in this room, it's getting hot, and poor Terry is directly in the sun. And
yeah.
so I'm going to say, Terry, I am honored that you joined us here at Ethos today. And I want to affirm you in the fact that you are living an authentic life, and everywhere you go, you bring more and more life. And I'm honored to have you here, honored to be your friend, and as someone from this community, we just love you, we appreciate you, and you will always have a home here at Ethos. And so again, I think I'm not alone in saying that.
Thank you. Thanks.
We so appreciate you. And so so as always, to my podcast listeners, I will see you next week. And again, we want to thank you for joining us today. We continue to ask for support there on patreon.com/Tony Werfel. Please donate there generously. Help us to keep this going. We are so honored to have people like Terry and others join us. So blessings, everyone.